Hey, Unity of Springfield. My name is James. Some of you do know me either through Facebook or maybe we've met at the church the few times that we got to go to church before the church shut down due to COVID. The whole world seems to be shut down. But anyway, I am really grateful that Paul asked me to teach. And so today I'm going to be teaching about a process called mirror work. And it's really just one method of how to love ourselves. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about just one method, one practice that maybe you can add to practices that you're already doing to teach you to how to more effectively love yourself. And I actually learned this method from, let me grab it from my desk. So it's under my computer. So from this lady, her name is Louise L. And just to start out, I actually wanted to share Louise L's philosophy, since her philosophy really does sort of mirror the philosophy of unity. And so you can just kind of gather, like where I'm getting this information from. So these are it's a part of this book, some points on my philosophy. So it says, we are each responsible for all of our experiences. Every thought we think is creating our future. The point of power is always in the present moment. Everyone suffers from self-hatred and guilt. The bottom line for everyone is, I'm not good enough. It is only a thought, and a thought can be changed. We create every so-called illness in our body. Resentment, criticism, and guilt are the most dangerous patterns. Releasing resentment will dissolve even cancer. We must release the past and forgive everyone. We must be willing to begin to learn to love ourselves. Self-approval and self-acceptance in the now are the keys to positive changes. When we really love ourselves, everything in our world, or everything in our life works. Everything in our world works too. Anyway. So that's just some of her philosophies. And so since I am taking this particular teaching from her philosophies, I wanted to talk a little bit about how do we love ourselves. I actually would like to start with a scripture from the Bible where Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so these are the only two real commandments when you read the gospel. These are this is what Jesus said. These are the only two commandments. He even says after that, on these two commandments rest all of the law and all of what the prophets wrote. Meaning that these two things, if you want to sum up, okay, what does this giant book of the Bible, or even books like this, what is it all about? It's these two commandments. And so what we know from metaphysics, at least I don't know if anybody's read books by Emmett Fox, but Emmett Fox talks about anytime it says Lord, it means the inner Christ. So love the inner Christ with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. The inner Christ, which is your connection to the divine. So, and then heart is the emotion, soul is the expression, and mind is our thoughts, essentially. And so I've actually already recorded this video once, the whole thing. And I have a friend that coached me when I started doing some public speaking. And she said, anytime you speak publicly, afterwards say, oh, that was amazing. No matter what happened, say, that was amazing. So I did that. And then several hours later, I went on to my the part of my device, the app in my device that helps me edit videos. And I found out that I recorded it on time lapse. And so my 30-minute talk was actually 30 seconds. And so I am re-recording it. So I have a lot of practice in doing this talk because I've already done it one time. And actually, I think I'm going to show that right here. Just not the whole 30 seconds, maybe just a little bit of it. So yeah, that happened. And actually it was it was a way for me to practice what I'm preaching or practice what I'm teaching here today. And I'll just give you an introduction of mirror work in that way. Is one of the things that I do in the mirror is if I make a mistake, does not matter how severe or how small the mistake is. I have mirrors up in my hallways. I have mirrors sitting around in my office. I have them in my bedroom. And obviously there are mirrors in the bathrooms as well. And so if I make a mistake, I go to the mirror and I say, I love you anyway. And then I move on, because the whole point of mirror work is to really learn to love ourselves in the moment rather than judging ourselves for something that has happened. In fact, what happens in the mirror is if you do have criticisms or judgments against yourself, they will come up if you're doing mirror work. It's the nature of the process, the practice, both of them. So I just want to give you, this is how you do mirror work. It's very simple. If you've never done it before, it is not difficult to learn at all. You just have a mirror. So this is a little mirror that I have sitting on my desk. We did a group in Michigan of people that did mirror work. And so we all had these little mirrors that we used in the group, because it was, we couldn't really drag in full-length mirrors for our little group that was taking place at a coffee shop. So you take the mirror, and if this is the first time you've ever done it, you just look into your own eyes. So the eyes are the window to the soul. And you say to yourself, James, I love you exactly as you are. Or you could say, James, I love and approve of you exactly as you are. Now, unless your name is James, don't say James. You use your name and see what comes up. I highly recommend having a notebook or a journal. I actually, when I first recorded this, I had my journal and I held up my journal as a prop, and I don't know where it is right now because I carry it around with me. So it's somewhere in the apartment. But anyway, having a journal or something to write on and write with, it is also a good idea, at least it was for me, to have a box of tissues. Something that you can use to like wipe your face. It's actually, I do mirror work sometimes in the bathroom. Sometimes it's nice to have the sink right there so I can just splash some cold water on my face if, some really strong emotions come up. And I recommend sitting there for a while with mirror work. The longest session I think I've ever done is 4 hours, but I had some really difficult issues that were coming up at the time that I was working through. Normally, I think when I started doing mirror work, 5-10 minutes a day, and then I would just have something to write down, and I would write down whatever came up. So the most common things that would come up for me, and this may be different for you, and that's fine because we all have different issues we're working through. But for me, it was, you're too fat, and you're not good enough. You're not tall enough, and you're not, and so it is always going to be too much of one thing or not enough of another. That's, when we have criticisms and judgments against ourselves, it is always being too much of one thing or not enough of another, rather than just loving and accepting ourselves as we are. Now, some people that I've worked with have a very difficult time with mirror work. Louise actually talks about one of her clients that wanted to throw the mirror across the room when she was working with them. So there are ways around that. If you've really never loved yourself, which maybe some of you here have never even thought about it, you may want to start, if it's too difficult to start with, I love you exactly as you are, then work back a little bit and, say, I'm willing to learn to love you. And if that still seems too difficult, you could say, I'm willing to like you, or I'm willing to learn to like you, or I'm willing to be willing to learn to like you. Just whatever seems most comfortable. The goal is to progressively move toward love, but you have to start where you're at. The practice itself is an expression of love. So just being willing to sit there to see what comes up is the practice of love. It is loving yourself. To do this or any other spiritual or metaphysical practice. And then whatever comes up, write it down, and then create an affirmation. You know, that's one of the things I've really appreciated about Unity is we talk a lot about denials and affirmations. So another thing that people I've worked with become concerned about is, well, if I love myself, will I ever, won't I just stay the same? And that's actually not how love works. Love is the healing force of the planet. Love is the way that we evolve as people. So when you begin to love yourself more, it's actually a lot easier to make positive changes in your life. I'll just give you an example. I was a smoker for over 20 years. I smoked cigarettes. And I criticized and judged myself for years. Even after I'd been doing mirror work for years, I realized that I hid my smoking for a long time. And then I also would criticize myself or others. Like if I smelled smoke, I would just, on their clothing, I was quick to criticize. And so what I did is, first of all, I started with the mirror, but then I also I love smoking, and I would thank the cigarette because I just recognized that, well, something in me must need this pattern, and the only way I can really, and I would do denials as well, but I also started saying, this is in the Native American tradition, this is a medicine. So clearly my body needs this medicine. And when I don't need this medicine anymore, it will be gone. And so I stopped criticizing myself for smoking cigarettes, which I just believed I would never quit smoking. And within just a few months, I didn't really like the taste of cigarettes anymore. And a few months after that, I just didn't smoke. I just put them down and never really picked them up again. I will tell you, I have picked them up one time since then, in April of this year, when my husband was in a car accident. I just really wanted cigarettes. And so I, had somebody take me to the store and I got a pack of cigarettes and I smoked the whole thing. And I even used the affirmations like, in Native American tradition, this is a medicine, I must need it. But I actually didn't like it. I really only smoked the whole pack because cigarettes cost money. And I didn't want to throw the money away, which seems silly, but it's just what happened. So anyway, and that's another thing you can do in the mirror is loving your negatives. Recognizing that just criticizing yourself never really makes any effective or positive changes in your life. So I just have to really interrupt this whole class just to say, this is the best way to teach a class. If I'm thirsty, I can just stop the video, get a glass of water, come back, and then drink it. Anyway, back to the class, which was not really interrupted for you, but was interrupted for me. So anyway, another thing that you can do in the mirror is deal with fear. Fear, the mirror is really good at helping us deal with these patterns of fear that we have in our lives. One of the things that Louise said is, if you really loved yourself, you would stop scaring yourself. Think of yourself as, your fears as like a little child who's afraid. You want to be really gentle and kind with yourself regarding the things that you're afraid of. And, do some positive affirmations in the mirror about what you're afraid of. Affirming that you're always loved and you're always guided and you're always supported by a power that is greater than yourself is a very good thing to do in the mirror if you find that you are frightened about something. Forgiveness. Now, this is a big topic, and we could do a whole class on just forgiveness. But forgiveness is one of those things that is very effective to do forgiveness work in the mirror. I found that just forgiving other people in saying their names while I'm, saying it, looking into my own eyes. Forgiveness, it's such a big topic. Forgiveness is really recognizing that every human being on this planet is really doing the best that they can with the information and understanding that they have, including each one of us, that's really what forgiveness is. Jesus, the story of Jesus in the Bible, when he was being crucified, he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." Which is the whole thing about forgiveness, is that forgiveness means that we're out of our normal state of mind. We've deviated in some way from love. And that has done damage either in a relationship or someone else has done it and it has done damage to us. But what's the first thing that anyone says when they realize that they've done something that they don't, that they're not too proud of, is, "What was I thinking?" And the truth is most of us, if we do those things, we really aren't thinking. Forgiveness is recognizing that, when we cause pain to other people or when other people have caused pain to us, it's really, a pattern of not loving that has caused the event to occur, which makes forgiveness a lot more easier to understand, another person's behavior. And it makes it easier for us to release it. And some of the things, when I was first working through forgiveness, I went to a Bible school and I got kicked out of the Bible school and I lost all of my credentials and I lost all of the money that I invested in. And one of the reasons why I was kicked out was because I was in conversion therapy and I started talking about conversion therapy and in the negative, saying, "Hey, this doesn't work for anyone." Which, by the way, I went to everybody in, these programs and asked them, "Hey, is this working for you?" And I would say stuff like, "You can't lie to me because the Bible says not to lie." And I really, found that I didn't meet anyone who had ever effectively changed their sexuality. By the way, if you're not familiar with conversion therapy, it's also called reparative therapy. It's programs in some religious traditions that try to shift someone's homosexuality to heterosexuality or, trans, and there's just, they just kind of clump it all together and they promote a program that they say can change people. But I had 3 programs over the course of 5 years and I never met anyone that it actually changed. But one thing I had to realize about those programs is I was an adult. There's some kids that have to go through those programs because their parents want them to. But as an adult, I realized I signed up for those programs. And, a lot of the things that we experience in life, we signed up for. We're all here, during this coronavirus time. And I think that one of the things that really we need to recognize is that we signed up to be on this planet at this time. And which means that we can affect change during this time as well. And I personally believe that this is a time where our world can heal, can change in a positive way and heal, and that we can reverse patterns in our society that are very negative, systemic racism and systemic poverty. It's not a mistake that these issues are coming up right now during this time. And, one thing that Louise used to say is, we all want the world to change and other people to change. But the only thing we can really ever change is ourselves. And when we learn to love ourselves, we become able to learn to love the people around us in the world in a different way. And through that, the world will change. It says in the Bible that God is love. God is the healing force of the individual. God is the healing force of communities. God is the healing force within our entire planet. God can heal the entire planet. We can love, and God can heal. Sometimes I think we feel like we have to elect the right person, or we have to, which is, by the way, I definitely vote. That is a way that you can participate in what's going on. But we're never going to elect a savior. We can't elect a personal savior or a, political savior. There's no such thing. The way that the world changes is when we learn to love ourselves, then our world begins to change. we begin to have different experiences. And when we learn to love each other, and then it brings community together. When we stop judging and criticizing other people, we do not have to agree with each other to love each other. I think that this is a very important issue that is taking place on our planet right now. That, we sort of have this idea, at least I've been observing this, I'm not sure about you, but we sort of have this idea that, well, if we disagree with each other, we can't be friends. I mean, I have people in my life that have like totally gotten rid of family members from their circles, which sometimes that's necessary if you have a really unhealthy situation. But I used to speak at different events when I was in Michigan. This was after our current president was elected. And, I used to tell, these were always very, I don't know. It was one political party that tended to ask me to come to speak to their groups. And I would always tell them, it is important for you to go make friends with somebody that you disagree with politically, so that we can begin to recognize that we don't have to agree with each other to love each other, and we don't have to make every conversation about the things we disagree with. We can find things that we can agree on, and we can find ways, we only in America could we make a pandemic a political issue, or, racism a political issue, or systemic poverty, those things affect all of us. And the way that I believe we will resolve that is through community. And I've been talking to several people lately, and everybody I ask them, what is community? What does that mean to you? In fact, if you want to post in the comments to this video what community means to you, I would love to know, because it is a question that has been on my mind for a while. So I've deviated completely from mirror work, but these are topics that you can definitely take into the mirror with you, and I certainly do. And so you can do affirmations in the mirror, do forgiveness work in the mirror for yourself and for others. Definitely forgive yourself. Recognize that you've done nothing wrong. I mean, that is so important for us to be able to move effectively in life. When we think that we're wrong or we're bad, it's very difficult for us to progress in any area of life. So forgive yourself, release all guilt as well. Guilt is, in the moment, guilt can be useful. But some people carry around guilt like they've done something and they just feel it's so awful. And I've had, I'm an ordained minister. I've never really been to a church since I left the church that I was a part of years ago. But I'm an ordained minister, and I've taken confessions before, and it's like, I've not heard anybody give me any, I used to work in homeless shelters, and I've never heard anyone confess something that would make them unlovable. I've maybe there's someone out there, I doubt it, but maybe there's somebody out there. There's certainly certain behaviors that we do not want rampant in our society, but, guilt is just not something, when we carry around guilt or shame, those things really inhibit us from being able to, effectively communicate with each other without fear. And so if you've done something really, really awful, don't do it again and move on. So that's forgiveness. That's not scare. You don't want to scare yourself, obviously. It seems, a lot of these things seem like common sense, but I know when I was working through them, it sounded like common sense, and some of it sounded so simple. I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. But I was very sick when I was introduced to this work. I had a really bad illness, and the doctors did not really have a good prognosis for me. And so I was like, well, I'll do anything. But, we worked through that. We've worked through this list. Actually, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to introduce you to a man named Paul Luftinegger. He's when Louise passed, we actually met each other after Louise passed, and he's just somebody I really appreciate and love. And he said he would present a song for this talk today. And he introduces himself in his video, so I'm just gonna pass it on to his video.
Hi there, my name's Paul Luftinegger. I was asked to do this beautiful day by my brother James, and I really wanted to, first of all, say thank you to Unity of Springfield for all the wonderful, beautiful Unity work that you're doing. I know that these times have been challenging for all of us, and I wanted to wish you some love and light from Canada, good blessings and good wishes. And you're in my deep thoughts and my prayers, obviously doing this. So long story short, I'll just share a little bit about who I am and what I do. And my name is Paul Luftinegger. I am an international multi-award winning singer and songwriter, and I've been a public person since 2011, since my father sadly took his own life. And my music has been used around the world in so many different ways. And in particular, I've been invited to the United Nations 3 times now to speak and sing. And I believe in writing music to inspire global love and kindness from within. My song, My Heart, is what I'm going to sing for you today. And this song was actually used to honor the last birthday when Louise Hay turned 90. So it was to honor her for her birthday in front of 2,000 people in San Diego. And what I've come to learn also is that my music actually was used, and she listened to my music while she was transitioning. For those of you that know Louise Hay, she was 90 years old when she transitioned. And I just recently was back in February of this year, I was asked to fly out to receive some of her ashes, along with this pink crystal rose quartz heart that sat on Louise Hay's desk. So I wanted to bring Louise Hay's ashes here today. So these are Louise Hay's ashes. And I just really feel honored to be able to sing this song that was also used for her last birthday before she transitioned. That being said, this song is very powerful. It's used all around the world. And I'm gonna sing a live version. I'm at my home today. It's a beautiful sun setting sort of day here. And I've recorded this really with the intention for you to really love yourself, to put your hand on your heart, take a moment for yourself, center in your heart space, and really take some time to just do some self-love as the song sort of asks you to do. So just follow along. Feel free to close your eyes if that feels right to you. And if you want to keep them open, that's great too. And I'm going to start off with a couple of deep breaths, and we'll see what comes, okay? So here we go. This is My Heart. Okay, here we go. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Another one in deep through your nose and out through your mouth. And another one in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just keep breathing naturally. And say I love you, and close your eyes.
life. I see your love as one love. I feel a tiredness of bliss in this. Oh, can you see your waterfall? And your heart is fading to it all. Your stream, how it flows, it glistens as it goes. So shine your light and shine your soul. Shine your light and shine your soul. You see, you are a radiant starlight and raise your light. So would you please put your hand on your beautiful heart? Yes, put your hand on your beautiful heart and say I love you. I love you. And close your eyes, feel your breath beneath that beautiful heart. You have such a beautiful heart. You have such a beautiful heart. In your and take a deep breath into your nose and out through your mouth and into your nose and out through your mouth, and one more time in through your nose and out through your mouth.
So that is my heart. When I wrote that song, I knew that I had written a Quantum Heart love song, and it was always intended to really be about self-love for you, the listener. And this song is used in so many centers around the world: schools, hospitals, funerals, and even women's shelters, to support people and support their heart. I feel like Louise Hay very much did, and her work very clearly speaks to, is that self-love, when we're really kind and loving to ourselves, when we're gentle with ourselves, what we're capable of doing is actually softening our heart and our soul, and opening up our ability to hold the divinity within us. And then that helps basically expand love. So if this resonates with you, I just want to say thank you for taking a moment. And of course, to Unity. I've sang at many Unity churches around North America. And I just want to thank you, Unity of Springfield, for just this moment of love and kindness. And if you're interested in my work, you can go to my website, which is beekindness.com. So it's BEE kindness.com. And this song is actually on my Love Expanding Love album, as well as the Miracle of You album, with Anita Morjani, who's a friend of mine. So with so much love, thank you, James, for asking me to do this. And to all of you, God bless you. Namaste.
I'm back. Wasn't that a lovely song? That is just, it's just one of my favorite songs. It is, it's actually, I believe, one of the first songs, if not the first song of Paul's that I had listened to. And it's just, any time that I'm feeling frightened, or I just will put on that song and I'll just close my eyes and take a few deep breaths and just listen and just realize, oh, I am worthy of my own love. I wanted to read the fifth principle of unity. I wrote it down in my journal. I had to go find my journal. So because I think it's important for topics like these. It's not just enough to conceptualize what does it mean to love ourselves. We actually have to take the steps that are necessary to live out our lives in a way that is loving toward ourselves and other people. So number 5, the fifth principle of unity is action is needed. Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, is not enough. Through thoughts, words, and actions, we live in the truth we know. Knowledge of these spiritual principles is not enough. We must live them. So, mirror work. I mean, there's so much you can do in the mirror. And like I said, the eyes, well, I didn't say it, I believe it's in the Gospels. Jesus said it, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And it's so interesting when you look at the evolution of mirrors in, history. We have gazing into a bowl of water as a mirror. It was a bowl usually made out of like obsidian that was reflective surface, but you didn't see very clearly. And then it was burnished metal. I don't believe it was bronze. I don't remember what metal it was, but then it was burnished metal. And it gradually, as the mirrors evolved, we saw more clearly through the technology of mirrors. And I just find it very interesting because consciousness has evolved with mirrors as well. And it makes me wonder sometimes when I'm doing mirror work, what am I not seeing? What just because of, a limitation maybe that I have, what am I not seeing? And so that's something I always not always, but sometimes I think about when it comes to doing mirror work. It's like, wow, even just 500 years ago, we wouldn't have the same practice. And would we even really know what we're not seeing when the next stage of evolution of mirrors comes out? Who knows? I don't know. Who knows? So anyway, so I just find that's something occasionally I like to ponder. And, you can work to love yourself. I love and approve of myself. I love and approve of you in the mirror. You can work through fear. You can work through criticism. You can work through judgment. You can work through, I don't know what, I said other things too, I'm sure, through this, through this little talk, but definitely do the practice. One of the things that Louise said is, you don't have to wait to have the perfect job to love yourself. And you don't have to wait until you lose the weight to love yourself. You can get the perfect job and you can lose the weight, and you'll still find another reason not to love yourself. And you don't have to wait to have the perfect car to love yourself. Even if you had the perfect car, you'd find another thing to criticize yourself about. And I remember she said, and if you wait to be perfect to love yourself, you will waste your whole life. And when I first heard that 15 years ago, I realized, wow, it is really a waste of time not to love myself. Because regardless of how many relationships I have, regardless of, I'm married, but it's not like I get to spend every 24 of my hours each day with my husband. The person I am going to spend the most time with is me. And the person you're going to spend the most time with is you. And when you really love yourself, you begin to live, you can be all by yourself and you can just be content and happy, knowing that, yes, the relationship will come along. My husband will come home from work. All of those things will happen. But you can just enjoy this whole process of life that is unfolding for each and every one of us in our own unique way. You do not have to be worthy of love. In fact, there's no such thing. You are lovable, not because you have to earn love, but because you exist. You are lovable because you exist, because a power greater than yourself puts you here. And that's enough. And so, going back to that first scripture, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. Strength is something that's actually added into Luke. I'm not sure if I know it's not in Matthew, but anyway. So, with your heart, meaning that, how do I love God with my heart? I choose to see myself as God sees me. With my soul, I choose to express in a loving way. And with my mind, I choose thoughts that support me, whether it means through affirmations or denials. I choose to believe the thoughts that support love. And so I appreciate all of you. I love all of you. I think unity is amazing. I'm so glad that we're a part of this community. And I know that someday this whole coronavirus situation will be over and we'll be able to meet face to face again. It may be some time. But for now, we have the internet, we have the telephone, and we have Zoom. Oh, don't we love Zoom? Zoom is like my favorite app. I find myself on Zoom at least once a day. Isn't it amazing? I don't know if you don't know how to use Zoom. I highly recommend just downloading the app. And on Wednesday, Sue has a meeting on Zoom Wednesday nights, I believe at 7. That might be inaccurate, but I believe it's at 7. And then there is an Abraham group on Saturdays from 12 to 2 or 3, 2. I think it's 2. I go every week and I'm just in the now. I'm just that spiritual, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because sometimes the woman who hosts the meeting on her Zoom, sometimes she's out of town or she has something going on and I run the meeting. You would think I'd know when it starts and when it ends. I know for sure it starts at 12 though. Anyway, yeah, so, just be a part of the community. Love yourself and then find places to express that. It doesn't even really have to be with unity. It can be wherever you fit, because that's wherever you fit and wherever you belong, that's where you're going to have the most impact anyway. So anyway, that's it. Love you. Bye. Thank you for letting me share.